The stars were calm, glittering silently in the endless black of space. For centuries, humanity had looked up at them with wonder, imagining peace, discovery, and progress. They had built great ships, colonies on distant planets, and fleets to protect their worlds. Humans believed they understood war. They studied it, trained for it, and prepared for every possible threat. But they were wrong. From the dark edges of the galaxy, a shadow appeared. At first, it was barely noticeable, a small flicker against the stars. Then, as it drew closer, the shadow grew into a wave of darkness, a fleet unlike any humanity had seen. Enormous alien warships, sleek, black, and deadly, moved silently through space. Their surfaces shimmered with strange energy, and from them beams of light could cut through planets like paper. The people of the galaxy barely had time to react. Entire colonies vanished without a trace. Panic spread faster than the speed of light. Across the stars, civilizations that had once considered themselves powerful now trembled. And humanity, still proud, still confident in their fleets, faced the unimaginable. On the bridge of the USS Resolute, Commander Elena Hayes stared at the view screens. The alien fleet stretched across the horizon, moving with precision and cold intent. Her chest tightened, not from fear but from the weight of responsibility. Every blinking light, every signal was a life depending on her decisions. Thousands of human lives rested in her hands. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. Humanity had to survive. Humanity had to fight. The aliens had underestimated humans. They believed war could be calculated, controlled, and dominated by pure logic. But humans fought differently. Humans fought with heart. They fought with courage, with hope, with something alien technology could never predict: the will to survive against impossible odds. The first orders were given. Ships accelerated into formation, engines blazing. Communications crackled with tension as fleet captains reported positions, damages, and alien movements. On board, crew members moved with practiced efficiency, checking systems, loading weapons, and preparing for battle. Fear was there, but it was tempered with determination. They could not allow panic to take over. There was no room for hesitation. Commander Hayes walked slowly along the bridge, observing her crew. Young pilots, barely old enough to vote, gripped their controls with white-knuckled intensity. Engineers monitored reactor outputs, ready to repair anything that failed. Soldiers readied their rifles for boarding missions. Each person understood the danger, yet every face showed something extraordinary: human resolve. Then, the first attack came. Alien beams struck the outer defense lines, sending shudders through human ships. Explosions lit up the darkness, and alarm screamed across the fleet. For a moment, it seemed the aliens might crush humanity in a single blow. But humans did not retreat. They had trained for this, yes, but more than training, they had a fire inside that no alien calculation could anticipate. Commander Hayes gave the order: engage. Focus on their engines. Hit fast, hit hard. Human fighters darted forward, small and agile compared to the massive alien ships. They weaved through energy blasts, striking critical systems with precision. Each explosion, each maneuver was a declaration. Humanity would not go quietly into the night. From the command deck, Hayes watched the first human strikes hit their targets. Some alien ships shuddered, sparks flying across their armor. The fleet's morale surged. Humanity was not just surviving, it was fighting back. And though the cost would be high, though lives would be lost, the human spirit shone like a beacon across the dark void of space. In that moment, the galaxy began to notice something extraordinary. These humans were different. They were unpredictable, daring, and unstoppable when they refused to yield. The aliens might have understood war, but they had never faced the heart of humanity. And humanity, for the first time, knew the truth. War was not just about strategy or weapons. It was about courage, hope, and the unwillingness to ever give up, even when the odds seemed impossible. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, watching the beginning of a battle that would change everything. The darkness of space became a battlefield. Human ships and alien war machines clashed with fire, light, and fury. Explosions rippled through the void, leaving trails of debris that glimmered like broken stars. Commander Elena Hayes stood on the bridge of the USS Resolute, eyes fixed on the chaos. Every signal, every flicker on the screens told a story of lives in danger and courage being tested. The alien ships moved with terrifying precision. Their weapons cut through human shields, tearing holes in fleets, leaving trails of burning metal. Human pilots shouted over comms reporting the devastation. Fear tried to creep in, but Hayes could not allow it. She knew that panic was as dangerous as any alien weapon. The human fleet had to fight together or they would be crushed. Form the wedge formation. Focus fire on the lead alien ships, Hayes commanded. Her voice was firm, unshakable, carrying both authority and hope. She knew strategy alone would not win this battle. Humans needed to be bold, to think fast, and to embrace risk in ways the aliens could never predict. The first wave of human fighters darted forward like swarms of starlight. They were small, fragile, and outgunned, but they were clever. Pilots twisted and turned through the alien fire, weaving past deadly beams and striking at engines, weapons, and weak points. Every successful hit was a spark of hope, a reminder that humans did not fight to destroy. They fought to survive and protect. Some pilots did not survive. Ships were torn apart and screams crackled over the comms. Each loss hit hard and grief weighed on the crew of the Resolute, but it did not break them. Hayes felt the pain too, but she held it close, turning it into determination. Humanity would not falter. Humanity would fight no matter the cost. Amid the chaos, human ingenuity shone. Engineers in orbit repaired shields faster than expected. Weapons teams recalibrated lasers mid-battle, and boarding squads prepared to take down alien vessels from the inside. Where the aliens relied on sheer force, humans relied on creativity, courage, and teamwork. Each move was unpredictable, frustrating the enemy. The aliens had studied war in countless ways, but they had never studied the human spirit. The battle reached a turning point when a group of human fighters launched a daring attack on the alien flagship. Smaller, faster, and braver than any ship in the fleet, they dodged missiles and energy beams with impossible skill. Some sacrificed themselves to destroy critical alien systems, their bravery shining across the battlefield. These acts were reckless to some, heroic to others, and devastatingly effective. Hayes watched with a mix of pride and sorrow. Each explosion, each sacrifice reminded her of the stakes. Humanity was not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for every life in the galaxy. And in that struggle, something extraordinary happened. The aliens began to hesitate. Their attacks grew cautious. They had never encountered opponents willing to risk everything with such determination. Across the human fleet, morale surged. Pilots cheered in their comms as they saw alien ships shudder and explode. Engineers smiled as shields held longer than predicted. Soldiers on the ground watching the battle from distant colonies felt hope stirring in their hearts. Humanity was alive. Humanity was resisting. Humanity could win. By the end of the battle, losses were heavy. Ships were destroyed and brave men and women would not return home. But for the first time, humanity had shown the galaxy that they were not just survivors. They were fighters. The aliens had underestimated them, and that mistake would echo across the stars. Commander Hayes stood on the bridge, eyes scanning the stars. She thought of every life lost and every life saved. She thought of the children on Earth who might one day look up at the stars and dream. And she knew this was only the beginning. Humanity would endure no matter the darkness, no matter the enemy. The galaxy was watching. The first clash had ended, but a storm was coming. And humanity would face it with fire in their hearts and courage in their souls. The first clash had ended, but the galaxy was far from safe. Human ships limped back to repair stations, and cries of the wounded echoed across the stars. Commander Elena Hayes walked the corridors of the USS Resolute, her footsteps heavy but steady. She felt the weight of every loss, every life cut short in the battle, but she could not allow despair to take root. Humanity depended on her courage as much as they depended on their own. Across distant colonies, civilians huddled in shelters, watching the news feeds from the front lines. Families prayed for loved ones in space, clutching images of pilots and soldiers. Children stared at screens wide-eyed, seeing fire streak across the void and ships explode in bright, terrifying flashes. Yet in that fear, hope quietly stirred. Humanity was fighting back. Humanity was resisting. Humanity was alive. In the war rooms of Earth's command centers, scientists and strategists pored over battle data. They studied alien weapons, fleet movements, and patterns that humans could exploit. Every discovery, every small success became a reason to believe. Humanity was learning, adapting, and surviving. The aliens might have been stronger and faster, but humans were clever. Humans were resilient. Humans never gave up. Commander Hayes entered the briefing room where her officers waited. She saw exhaustion etched on their faces, but also determination. They had faced destruction and survived. Their loyalty to each other, to humanity, was unshakable. Hayes spoke with a voice both calm and firm. "We have lost much, but we have also learned. Every strike we take, every move we make, brings us closer to victory. Remember why we fight. Remember who we are." Her words sparked something in the crew. They were tired, they were scared, but they were human, and humans did not surrender. Engineers repaired broken systems with speed born of desperation. Pilots trained for maneuvers that seemed impossible, and soldiers prepared for missions that might demand the ultimate sacrifice. Each person carried the same fire, the refusal to bow to fear. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. Other civilizations watching humans fight began to wonder. "They are different," they said. "They do not fight only for themselves, they fight for hope, for life, for something we cannot measure." These words traveled faster than any fleet. Humanity's courage became a beacon, inspiring allies and unsettling enemies. Hayes stood alone on the observation deck later, staring at the stars. She thought of her crew, the civilians, the families waiting for news, and the children dreaming of the future. Each life mattered, each hope was precious. Humanity was small compared to the alien armada, but their hearts were enormous, and in those hearts burned a fire no weapon could destroy. As night fell across human colonies, people lit lanterns and candles, small symbols of defiance and belief. They knew the war was far from over, yet they held on to hope. Humanity had tasted fear, yes, but they had also tasted victory. They had seen that even in the darkness of space, courage could shine brighter than the stars. Hayes returned to her quarters, weary but resolute. She opened a datapad, reading messages from loved ones across the fleet. One message caught her eye. A child's drawing of a human fighter soaring through space, protecting planets from dark alien shadows. A smile touched her lips. Humanity was more than ships, weapons, and strategy. It was heart, bravery, and the unwillingness to surrender. The galaxy had seen the first human fight, and the story was just beginning. Fear lingered, but hope was stronger. Humanity would survive. Humanity would resist. Humanity would rise. And every being across the stars would remember that the humans were not just fighters. They were a force the universe had never reckoned with. In the silence of space, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. They bore witness to something extraordinary, the courage of a species determined to fight, to endure, and to inspire. The battle was only the beginning, but humanity had already begun to change the galaxy forever. Months passed since the first clash, and the war had grown fiercer. Entire star systems became battlefields. Humanity had learned, adapted, and endured, but the aliens had not stopped. They brought stronger fleets, faster weapons, and strategies meant to crush human hope. Yet humanity refused to yield. Commander Elena Hayes studied the galaxy maps on the bridge of the USS Resolute. Her eyes traced the enemy's movements, calculating possibilities and risks. Humanity had survived against impossible odds, but Hayes knew that survival alone would not win this war. They needed a bold move, a strike that would change everything. The plan was daring. Infiltrate the alien mothership, the central command of their fleet. It was heavily defended, a fortress in space, bristling with weapons and protected by smaller warships. The mission was dangerous, perhaps suicidal. Yet Hayes believed in her team, in humanity's ability to face impossible challenges and rise stronger. She gathered her crew. Their faces were tired, marked by battle and loss, but their eyes held fire. "This mission is dangerous," Hayes said, her voice calm but firm. "Many of us may not return, but if we succeed, we can give humanity the chance to end this war. We fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone across the galaxy. Remember who we are. Remember why we fight." The crew nodded, silent but resolute. There was fear, yes, but there was also courage, the kind that burned brighter than any weapon. Humans were not just fighters. They were survivors, thinkers, and believers, and in their hearts they carried hope that could pierce even the darkest void. As the human strike team approached the alien mothership, tension gripped every soul aboard. Alien sensors scanned the surrounding space, searching for intruders. The team moved with precision, dodging detection and weaving through deadly energy fields. Every moment was a test, every decision could mean life or death. Inside the alien ship, the humans discovered technology beyond imagination, machines that could annihilate entire planets in moments, shields that seemed unbreakable, and systems designed for efficiency and terror. Yet the humans did not falter. They used their ingenuity, improvising tools, exploiting weaknesses, and moving with a cunning the aliens could not anticipate. Hayes led the team deeper into the ship, feeling the weight of history on their shoulders. Every step was a risk, every choice a gamble. And then, in the heart of the mothership, they found a critical vulnerability, a control system that governed the ship's weapons. Disabling it would give humanity a chance to turn the tide of the war. The team worked quickly, every second counting. Explosions rocked the vessel as alarms blared. Alien forces moved to intercept them, but the humans were relentless. Sacrifice and determination drove them forward. One by one, they overcame obstacles that seemed impossible, driven by the knowledge that the survival of countless lives rested in their hands. Finally, Hayes pressed the controls to initiate the disruption. The alien weapon systems flickered, then failed. The ship shuddered violently, giving humanity's fleets the opening they needed. The humans had struck at the heart of the enemy, proving that courage, ingenuity, and teamwork could overcome even the most overwhelming force. As the team retreated from the mothership, Hayes looked back at the alien vessel, now vulnerable and shaking in space. Humanity had taken the first true step toward victory. It was dangerous, it was costly, but it was proof. Humans were not just survivors. They were a force that could change the galaxy. The stars seemed to shimmer differently that night, as if recognizing the bravery of those who had dared to face the impossible. Humanity had turned the tide, showing that war was more than weapons and numbers. It was heart, determination, and the refusal to ever give up. Commander Hayes closed her eyes for a brief moment. She thought of her crew, her family on Earth, and the countless lives depending on them. Humanity had survived this turning point, but the war was far from over. Yet in her heart she knew one truth. As long as humans had courage and hope, no enemy, no matter how powerful, could ever truly defeat them. The galaxy had begun to notice. Humans were not just fighting, they were surviving, adapting, and inspiring. After the daring strike on the alien mothership, whispers spread among other civilizations. They are different, they said. They do not fight for glory or for conquest. They fight for life, for hope. Humanity's courage had become a beacon, drawing allies and shaking enemies. Commander Elena Hayes stood on the bridge of the USS Resolute, watching the battle unfold across the stars. Explosions lit the void, streaks of fire and energy weaving like deadly comets. Human ships darted through the chaos, small and fragile but relentless. Each pilot knew the danger, yet none wavered. Each soldier knew the risk, yet each heart burned with determination. In the middle of the storm, humans performed miracles. Engineers repaired shields while the ship rocked from impact. Pilots maneuvered through impossible angles, striking enemy ships in ways no simulation had predicted. Soldiers prepared boarding parties ready to risk everything to destroy alien vessels from the inside. It was reckless, dangerous, and brilliant. Humans fought not just with weapons, they fought with creativity, courage, and the will to survive. Every life lost carried weight, but every victory sparked hope. Across colonies, people watched broadcasts of human fleets defying impossible odds. Children drew pictures of brave pilots and heroic soldiers. Families lit candles and prayed not only for loved ones, but for the human spirit itself. Across the galaxy, hope was spreading like wildfire, igniting hearts that had long given in to fear. Hayes walked along the bridge, observing her crew. They were exhausted, covered in sweat and soot, but their eyes glowed with determination. They had endured darkness, faced death, and refused to surrender. "We are not just fighting for ourselves," she said quietly to her officers. "We are fighting for every life that looks up at the stars and believes in tomorrow." The aliens, once confident, began to falter. Their calculations failed to account for human unpredictability. They were precise, methodical, and ruthless, but humans were relentless, inspired, and brave. They struck where the aliens least expected and sacrificed when needed, leaving their enemies in confusion and fear. Across the fleet, morale surged. Pilots cheered after successful attacks. Engineers smiled at shields holding under impossible strain. Soldiers who had faced death felt pride instead of despair. Humanity's courage was contagious, spreading from ship to ship, colony to colony. It was no longer just survival. It was resistance, it was defiance, it was the undeniable power of human spirit. As the battle raged on, Hayes felt a quiet moment of awe. Humans were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most technologically advanced, but they were the most determined. They fought not because they had to, but because they believed. They fought not just for victory, but for each other, for life itself. Finally, after hours of chaos, the alien fleet began to retreat. Sparks of victory lit the stars, and the human ships regrouped. They had lost much, but they had proven something far greater. Humanity could endure anything. Every sacrifice, every bold move, every moment of courage had sent a message across the galaxy. Humans would not bow, would not yield, and would not be broken. Hayes gazed at the stars, her heart swelling with pride and sorrow. So many lives had been lost, but so much hope had been born. Humanity had begun to change the course of the war, and perhaps the fate of the galaxy itself. In the quiet moments after battle, the human spirit shone brightest. Not in weapons, not in numbers, but in the fire that burned in every heart willing to stand, fight, and protect. Across the galaxy, beings whispered of the humans who refused to surrender. The aliens had underestimated them once, but humanity's courage would be remembered forever. And in that moment, Hayes knew the war was far from over, but as long as humans believed in themselves, in each other, and in hope, they would endure. The galaxy had never seen anything like them, and it never would again. The galaxy held its breath. After months of relentless fighting, the humans faced the alien armada in a battle that would decide the fate of countless worlds. The stakes had never been higher. Every ship, every pilot, every soldier knew this was the moment that could end humanity, or secure its future. Commander Elena Hayes stood on the bridge of the USS Resolute, her hands gripping the railing. Outside, the alien fleet stretched across the horizon, enormous, black, and menacing. They were confident, ruthless, and precise. But humans had learned to fight in ways the aliens could not predict, and today humanity would show them why they were different. "Form the attack formations," Hayes ordered. "Stick to the plan, but stay sharp. The unexpected is our advantage." Her voice was calm, steady, and filled with determination. Every crew member on the bridge knew what was at stake. Fear was present, yes, but it was tempered by courage. Humanity did not fight without fear. They fought despite it. The battle erupted like a storm. Laser beams cut through space. Energy blasts lit up the darkness, and ships collided with thunderous force. Human fighters darted between massive alien warships, striking at engines, weapons, and critical systems. Explosions sent shards of metal spinning through the void, painting the stars with fire. Pilots performed maneuvers that defied logic, weaving through enemy fire with impossible speed. Some sacrificed themselves to destroy key targets, their bravery shining brighter than any star. Soldiers prepared boarding missions, knowing each step could be their last. Engineers repaired shields and weapons faster than thought possible. Humanity's ingenuity, courage, and teamwork were on full display. Hayes led the charge personally. Her ship dove into the heart of the enemy fleet, lasers blazing. The alien flagship loomed ahead, massive and deadly. Every decision mattered. One mistake could mean the end of the human fleet. But Hayes trusted her crew, and she trusted humanity. They were relentless, fearless, and clever. They would not back down. As the Resolute approached the flagship, the enemy fired with unprecedented fury. Shields faltered, alarms blared, and the ship shook violently. Hayes gritted her teeth. "Hold steady. Aim for the core, now." Human fighters followed her lead, striking in perfect coordination. Explosions ripped through the alien ship. Sparks flew, fire erupted, and a massive shockwave shook the surrounding vessels. At that moment, the tide of battle shifted. The alien fleet faltered, confused by the unpredictability and courage of the humans. Hayes' crew pushed forward with everything they had. Smaller ships disabled weapon systems, boarding teams infiltrated enemy vessels, and pilots struck critical engines. The humans were not just surviving, they were taking the fight to the heart of the enemy. Finally, Hayes made a bold decision. With engines at full power, she steered the Resolute directly into the alien flagship's core. The collision was cataclysmic. Energy surged, alarms screamed, and the enemy ship erupted in a brilliant flash that lit the void like a newborn star. Shockwaves rippled through the alien fleet, scattering their forces. Humanity had delivered a decisive blow. The remaining alien ships began to retreat, their confidence shattered. The humans had proven something extraordinary. They would never surrender, and they would fight with every ounce of courage in their hearts. Across the galaxy, beings watched in awe as the humans endured what no one thought possible. Hayes exhaled deeply, relief and pride washing over her. She thought of every crew member, every pilot, every soldier who had risked everything. Humanity had survived, not just because of weapons, numbers, or technology, but because of heart, determination, and an unbreakable spirit. Even as the stars returned to calm, Hayes knew the war had changed the galaxy forever. Humans had shown that they were not just fighters, they were legends in the making. And in every corner of the universe, the story of their courage would echo for generations. The battle had ended, but the legacy had just begun. Humanity had risen. Humanity had endured. Humanity had won respect that no alien armada could ever erase. The stars were quiet again, but humanity's mark on the galaxy was permanent. The alien armada had retreated, broken and bewildered, their confidence shattered, their arrogance humbled. Across countless worlds, civilizations that had once trembled now whispered the same truth. Humans were unlike any other species in the galaxy. They fought not just with weapons, but with courage, hope, and heart. Commander Elena Hayes stood on the bridge of the USS Resolute, staring at the void where the alien forces had once loomed. Her eyes were tired, her body weary, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. Humanity had survived what no one thought possible. They had faced overwhelming odds, felt the sting of loss, and endured unspeakable fear. But they had risen together, as one unstoppable force. Across human colonies, the people celebrated quietly. Survivors embraced loved ones, children laughed among ruins, and families lit candles to honor those who had given everything. Messages of gratitude poured in from ships still in orbit, from distant worlds that had watched the human fleets hold their ground, and from those who had once feared humanity's fall. Hope, fragile but strong, spread through the hearts of every person. Hayes walked along the observation deck, thinking of every life lost in the war. Each name, each face burned into her memory. The cost had been high, but the courage shown by humans was immeasurable. Pilots who had sacrificed themselves, soldiers who had fought against impossible odds, engineers who had repaired systems in moments of terror. Every act of bravery had carried humanity through darkness and into light. The galaxy would remember. Stories of human courage and resilience spread to other civilizations, inspiring them to rise against oppression, to fight for survival, and to believe in hope. Humans had proven that war was not only about power, strategy, or technology. It was about heart, determination, and the refusal to give up, even when faced with annihilation. Hayes thought of the young pilots she had trained, the soldiers who had trusted her with their lives, and the countless civilians who had held on to hope while waiting for news. Humanity had shown that even the smallest, most fragile beings could become legends if they were willing to fight with every ounce of courage they had. The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary. Humans had changed the way the universe understood war. They had shown that even in the darkest void, light could shine brighter than any weapon. They had proven that fear could be overcome, that hope could survive, and that heart could triumph over the strongest enemy. On Earth, people looked to the stars with newfound awe. Children dreamed not of peace alone, but of adventure, bravery, and heroism. Scientists and engineers worked harder, inspired by what humanity had achieved. Families spoke in hushed voices about the heroes they had lost and the victories they had gained. Humanity's legacy was no longer measured in ships or weapons. It was measured in courage, in hope, in the spirit that refused to be broken. Commander Hayes took one last look at the stars, feeling both sorrow and pride. The war had taken much from humanity, but it had also given something greater, proof that humans could endure anything, survive anything, and rise above any challenge. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity fought not just to survive, but to inspire. And so humanity's story continued, written in the stars. They had faced the impossible and triumphed. They had faced fear and turned it into courage. They had faced darkness and become a light the galaxy could not ignore. The humans had won the war, yes, but more than that, they had won respect, admiration, and a place in the history of the stars. They had shown that the heart of a human was mightier than the most powerful alien fleet. And as the stars shimmered above, quiet once more, humanity looked to the future with hope, pride, and the unshakable knowledge that no enemy, no matter how strong, could ever break the human spirit. The galaxy had learned the truth. They had underestimated humanity. And humanity would never be underestimated again.